Hey guys, back again. This is Bob, and today I'm going to be doing Groo meets Tarzan. This was a comic that I saw in the dollar bin and said I'm going to grab this up because, okay, this is an obvious thing here where it's like two worlds that conflict that shouldn't be merged. This should not be a team up that happens or whatever. I understand that Groo is, this comedic character. I love Groo. I have a shit ton of Groo comics in a pile over on the other side of the room here that I was reading through from the Marvel days to the Image days. And I even have a few from just a couple of months ago. Because Sergio Aragonés is still doing Groo, which I hope it never ends. Okay, but it just I'm like sitting here and I'm like, okay, this is very weird to have this kind of crossover, and I can't imagine it being good. So I picked it up, and it's been sitting in a pile for months, and I decided to read it now because I wanted to do a video on it. And I have to say that I enjoyed the hell out of it. It may be one of my favorite Groo comics, and I just didn't see it coming. I don't know why my imagination is so lacking that I can't see how they can put these worlds together, even in a comedic way, and have it work. But it did, and I laughed, and I enjoyed it. So let's go ahead and take a look at Groo meets Tarzan, okay? So, of course, we're going to start out here. This book is written by Sergio Aragonés and Mark Evanier, okay? But it starts off with Groo coming into a village with his dog, and he immediately smells some stuff, as Groo is always hungry whenever he enters any village. That is his sole primary thing, is that he's out to eat something, and it doesn't matter what, but it's his hunger that gets him everywhere, okay? So he says that he smells something, some kind of slimy swill, but he must eat it. And he wanders into this house, and he's like, we could just live here and feast every day on putrid pelts and dung water. And the dog is like, actually, that would be delicious, but that's not why we're here. We're here because we have to form an army. And of course, Groo can't, hear his dog. His dog is just thinking that. But he goes in and he's like, you in there, whatever I smell you were cooking, I want to eat it. And the woman in there is like, but this is a fetid concoction to rid our oxen of body lice. And Groo was like, my mother used to make that for me. So that, I busted out laughing. Right, that was a laugh out loud for me when I read it. I'm like, okay. And I don't know why it's a surprise, because we've seen this before. This is how Groo is. But it still made me laugh, okay? So he starts drinking that, and while he's doing that, the dog is like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and form this army for Groo while he's eating. So he's like, I'm a herder, but I haven't had any sheep to herd in forever, so now I'm going to herd these soldiers together for him, right? I'm going to make him an army. So he does that. He herds the army around, and he's surrounding them so they can't get anywhere, and they were afraid for their lives, thinking that the dog was going to kill them, or if they killed the dog, that Groo would kill them, okay? So Groo comes out after eating, and he's like, oh, how thoughtful. My loyal friend has rounded up an army for me to slay as dessert. That is hilarious, because if it's not eating, it's fighting. Those are the two things that are in Groo's characteristics. That's it, okay? So for dessert, he's like, yes, I'm going to kill all these men because that's fun or whatever. But the dog's like, no, that's not what they're for. So as Groo runs in to fight them, the dog is barking like crazy, and Groo stops to think for a second, like, why would my dog be barking? What's he trying to tell me? Is he trying to tell me that these men aren't for slaying? Oh, I know. That was the army that was rounded up, okay? So he takes them and he's like, okay, you guys are going to follow me because I have a new friend who needs an army, and we have to go now. So they're like, are we going to die if we follow you? And he's like, it's a possibility because we're going to fight. And the men are like, well, we can either go follow Groo to a probable death or not follow, and then Groo will certainly kill us. So we're going to go ahead and follow. Now we cut to the world of Tarzan, and we have Tarzan here wearing the clothes of a slaver that he has knocked out and tied up so that he can pretend to be the leader, and he's going to lure these slavers somewhere else. And the whole time he's thinking to himself that the strange man that he met that said he was going to get an army. He hopes that he doesn't return because he's solving the problem on his own, and that would just cause further problems. Okay, I think we all know who that man is. But Groo is taking these men through this tunnel, and it splits. And Groo's like, so I know for sure that we have to take the path down. And the dog is like, no, we take the path up. And Groo's like, so down we go. But Groo is going the opposite direction of what he said, which happens to be the right way. Okay. And again, we know that that is also Groo. Okay. Do the opposite of whatever Groo says. Actually, that doesn't work either. There's been comics where people think they figured Groo out and will beat him in his own game or something like that. And, you know, it still doesn't work. But now we cut to what is like a real world thing. And this is Sergio Aragonés. And somehow he's ended up in some kind of, wild safari type area or whatever. And there are alligators coming after him. There's monkeys around. But they're not real alligators. This is a guy wearing an alligator outfit because apparently at this amusement park that they're at, all of the animals were dying from being mistreated, which is just okay. They'll get to that more later on in the story or whatever. But Sergio Aragonés is like, I don't know how I got here. I'm cold. I'm alone and all this. And this guy's like, oh, well, just go ahead and wear one of these alligator costumes. That should warm you up, right? And then we'll wait for when the other people come around to pick me up to take me back to like the headquarters at this park or whatever, right? So that's what they do. And of course, this is Sergio Aragonés here dressed as an alligator as this family comes driving by. And they're like, hey, hold on now, that's a talking alligator, Cut back to Groo, where they emerge from the tunnel. And as we can see here, the landscape has changed. It's more realistic, right? Because we're in the world of Tarzan now with these Groo characters. And, these people are just looking in amazement. They're like, why does this land look like this? And, there was a creature back in the tunnel that they saw the skeleton of. And they're like, we hope that doesn't exist, because if it does, that could be deadlier than Groo. So Groo starts leading them to where he had left Tarzan. And he's screaming out for Tarzan, even though, again, Tarzan is trying to be quiet and pretend to be the leader of these slavers. But they hear Groo, and they're like, what is that sound? And Tarzan is just like, okay, so that sound should be nothing. But then they end up ripping the mask off of Tarzan and realizing that it's him. So Tarzan starts beating the crap out of them. And one of the slavers is telling another one with a rifle to go ahead and shoot Tarzan. And he's like, but I can't. He's surrounded by our own men. And this guy's like, it doesn't matter. You might kill one or two of our men, but at least you'll kill Tarzan too. And that's the more important thing. So just before he's about to pull the trigger, they're set upon by Groo and his army. And they're just like, what the hell? Both sides are like, what the hell are we looking at? No one can believe that the other side exists or anything. This is a more, realistic world of Tarzan. And then you've got this cartoony world of Sergio Aragonés' Groo and these other soldiers and everything, right? But they jump in, and Groo does what Groo does best, and he's fighting these people. Okay. And they end up defeating these slavers, and Tarzan is grateful. Okay. And he's like, okay, well, since, we've done our thing and everything, I will return these soldiers back to their village since they're not needed here anymore. Okay. All right. So we cut again to what should be, I guess, the real world. And this is Mark Evanier, and he is going to be on a panel at a comic convention. And they're like, hey, where is Sergio Aragonés? We can't, go on with this panel without Sergio. And Sergio has gone missing. But everybody at the comic convention is hearing this because they're like, who's going to draw spy versus spy if Sergio Aragonés is missing? So they need to find him, right? And they end up ripping Mark from his panel in order to go looking for Sergio. And I think somebody had said that he was lost somewhere in the safari park. What is it? The Chula Vista Jungle Safari Land. okay? So everybody piles in their cars and goes driving over to that. And the ticket master here is like, you can't come in here not unless you pay me $60 each, and we charge double for Batmobiles because they have Batman coming in too. This is a comic convention, but Captain Marvel here is like, we're cosplayers, we don't have money or pockets, okay? So now we cut to this guy who was helping Sergio, right? Sergio's still cold because he was in this water, and he's freezing and he doesn't think he's going to make it back when suddenly he's set upon by the Grim Reaper. And he's like, Madre de Dios, my life, it comes to an end as Grim Reaper approaches. My body, take my soul, just do not make me spend all eternity in the alligator suit. And then this skeleton here, or the Grim Reaper, is like, hey guys, I found him, he's over here. And Sergio's like, you're not the Grim Reaper? And he's like, no, I'm Elliot Firm, I'm cosplaying as Skeletor's grandmother. Again, as you can hear, I busted out laughing. A news reporter who had joined the crew to go looking for Sergio then starts interviewing the guy who is in the alligator costume that helped Sergio Aragonés, and he's telling the news reporter about the horrible conditions for the animals at this safari park. And then Sergio is talking to Mark Evanier, and he's like, Mark Evanier's like, I think Sergio's learned his lesson about doing crossovers. Now, I don't know why him being lost in Safari Land was him learning his lesson. Is this a continuation from another book? I don't know. I actually thought it was just this. I never saw anything else with it. But they're acting like Sergio Aragonés was doing crossovers with a bunch of different characters, and that, there may be like a small series where that happened. I don't know. I thought this was just kind of a one-shot and that was it. But we have Sergio here who's like, yes, no more Groo meeting fictional heroes like Conan and Tarzan, right? And he's like, my next series, Groo's going to cross over with a real hero like Elliot Flurm here. And he's like, no more crossovers. We don't do it. So, and Mark Evanier goes running off. And they're like, hey, that's Mark Evanier. And this news reporter's like, who the hell is that? And this hippopotamus apparently is quoting Wikipedia. And he's like, according to Wikipedia, Mark Evanier is an American writer of television and animation and an obsessive host of panels. And this reporter's like, what? He's kind of dumbfounded that this hippopotamus here would know all of that information. We cut back over to Groo and Tarzan. And Tarzan is actually very fond of Groo. He appreciates all the help that Groo gave him in defeating these slavers, and Groo is incredibly nice to him, and they seem to get along. This is like the first time I've seen where somebody didn't hate Groo for the chaos that he brings into any situation. So that was kind of wild that Tarzan was like, I kind of like this guy. So Groo decides to take his soldiers back, and he's also stating that, he already knows that when they get to the split that they must go down, but that's not the case. But he had said that out loud. So when Groo leaves, Tarzan is waving goodbye when one of the slavers apparently grabs a rock and knocks him out. And they start following Groo and his soldiers, and the soldiers go the way they're supposed to go. They asked Groo if they can, go back home or whatever, and Groo's like, sure. And their one request was that Groo did not follow them, and Groo was like, okay. So these slavers apparently are following the same way, and they heard Groo say that they must go down, so of course they take the wrong turn, which brings them into this savage land of dinosaurs and everything. But here you can see that they're like, yes, we escaped Tarzan, we're safe, everything's going to be fine for us until these dinosaurs come and take out all of them. And Tarzan was in pursuit of these guys when he comes across the spot where, they would have followed the soldiers. And instead, he causes an avalanche, a collapse that prevents anybody from going the same way that Groo and his companions went. So Groo here is like, oh no, I'm cut off. I'll never be able to go see my new friend again. And the dog is like, yeah, that's a sad thing, but you do still have me. And Groo's like, you're right, I have my best friend here. And when you have a best friend, you really only kind of need one of them. So that was it. So then we cut back to Tarzan going back home. And the soldiers here are asking Tarzan what happened to the slavers. And Tarzan's like, you know what? You would never believe me if I told you. They're like, yeah, go ahead, tell us, that you're intriguing us. And he starts to tell it and says, you know what? I don't even know how to explain it, so we're going to let this one go. And that was it. I got to say, I was thoroughly impressed with this and loved every bit of it. And if there is a Groo meets Conan comic out there, I am going to track it down and read it. So this was fun. So again, guys, this was Groo meets Tarzan. If you like this video, please hit like. It helps my channel grow. If you want to see more videos like it, hit subscribe because I tend to make one every day. Thanks for watching. See ya.